When it comes to vascular functions, people, that is even interesting. So let us go on to see the changes that is taking place in vasculature. Now, just because the demand of oxygen and demand of nutrients to a muscle is reduced, to a bone is reduced, there is actually going to be a drop in capillary density. Existing capillaries automatically gets extincted out. Alright, there is no need for capillary anymore. So there is going to be a drop in capillaries both in numbers as well as in sizes. And this is predominantly seen in muscles. Muscles are largest organ. Alright, it's huge in size. All throughout the body, if you compare, every muscle have got abundant of capillaries. When the need of oxygenation and nutrient delivery is going down, obviously those muscles makes their capillary to get extincted off. So there is an actual decrease in capillary density. This is technically called as capillary density, guys. Alright, there is a drop in capillary number as well as capillary size. And on one side, this is a drop in capillaries. On the other side, when it comes to veins, just because there is going to be prolonged immobility, there is going to be development of venous stasis. And this venous stasis is promoted by immobilization. Because joints are not moving, because the subject is not moving, blood tends to get stagnated. Just because blood is stagnating, if you compare the velocity of blood flow in an artery and a vein, arterial blood flows with a very high velocity. So the possibility of stagnation in an artery and an arteriole is practically less. But the flow velocity of blood in a vein is very sluggish. As a consequence, the sluggish blood flow in a vein is getting worsened by natural sedentary lifestyle of that subject. As a consequence, blood practically gets stagnated in vein, and this leads to venous stasis. And if the venous stasis keeps prolonging, this leads to a risk of deep vein thrombosis. So every sedentary person is at the risk of deep vein thrombosis because of the possibility of venous stasis, doctors. Alright, so that's going to be vasculature. Now within the vasculature as well as heart collectively put together, if you look for the blood pressure, it's obvious. On one side there is going to be increased heart rate, and that itself tries to push the blood further and further. On one side heart rate is getting increased, and if you look at the other side, the capillaries are getting lesser in number. Just because the capillaries are getting lesser in number as well as in size, look at this word. Now this change in number and size is very predominant in capillaries. But this doesn't mean the changes are happening only in capillaries. Arterioles also suffer this damage. The luminal caliber of arteriole comes down, the numbers of arterioles goes down. It is a collective event. Alright, on one side there is going to be decreased capillaries and decreased size of capillaries, numbers and size. It also happens to a lesser extent, but happens in arterioles as well. When the arterioles and the blood vessels at the peripheries are getting lesser and lesser, this practically makes the whole arterial tree as a single tube. You don't have bifurcations, right? You don't have branching out. All the branches are getting disappearing. So what is going to happen? It's going to look like a single tube, and just because the number of branches are going down, the pressure gets increased. So just because there is going to be decreased luminal size and decreased vessel number, there is going to be increase in blood pressure. Increase in blood pressure, and this increased blood pressure is purely because of increase in peripheral resistance. Increase in peripheral resistance, and the reason for increased peripheral resistance is the one that we just discussed. There is going to be decrease in vessel numbers. Vessel numbers goes down, as well as there is going to be decrease in vessel size. These two parameters increases peripheral resistance. Because there is going to be an increased peripheral resistance, there is going to be increased blood pressure, guys, and that is going to be the changes associated with heart and blood vessels in sedentary lifestyle. First and foremost changes. Coming to the other changes. After cardiovascular functions, let's take up musculoskeletal events.